Good afternoon, everyone, to North Carolina's press conference. A couple of quick announcements. Please silence your cell phones. Make sure to provide your name and media affiliation each time you ask a question. For the folks on Zoom, we'll get to you after we're through questions in the room. And recording press conferences on cell phones or cameras is prohibited. Today for North Carolina, we've got Laney Grant, Renaya Kelly, and India Navarre. We'll start with questions. Go ahead and raise your hand. We'll get you a mic. Jeremiah, go ahead.
Jeremiah Holloway with Inside Carolina. For you guys, obviously you have West Virginia coming up tomorrow. I know that they're, points per game wise, a really stout defensive team. Based on what you guys know about them so far, what are some of the early challenges that they, present for any of you three?
Renaya, why don't you go ahead and start?
I'm going to say ball control. I think we really have to take care of the ball this game. Just limit the turnovers and try to score when we get to the quarter-court.
Laney, you want to add anything?
Yeah, they have a couple really dynamic guards, so, playing really good group defense, making them play in crowds, stuff like that, kind of piggybacking, limiting turnovers in the backcourt. They press a lot, so just being and playing under control.
Doug Bunjor, Associated Press. A lot, of course, is made of their defense and how unique it is. Have you faced anyone similar to that or anything you can compare it to? Or is this truly something new for you?
India, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I think somebody similar is probably Duke. They pressure in the full court, man-to-man, but West Virginia, I feel like they're a little bit different. They're very sporadic in the way we just don't know which defense they're going to do at which time. But I feel like our teams in our conference have prepared us for this.
Anything to add, Renaya? Good? Come on, RL, you can do it.
RL Bonham, Tar Heel Tribune. Along those lines, you guys have had rock fights with Duke when they're a good defensive team as well. How will that be helping you guys in tomorrow's matchup in dealing with that sort of game?
Renaya, go ahead.
Like Indy said, this team is very different from Duke. I think they are very sporadic, like she said, but I think Duke also helped us just be prepared for the full court pressure. But as far as comparison, you really can't compare any team to West Virginia right now.
Anything to add, Laney?
I would just say, we've been in a lot of close games, so we feel confident throughout. If it is a rock fight, then we're going to be confident. We have a lot of good senior leaders, as well as these two sitting next to me. So, playing under control, but yeah.
Different sort of question. When Lexi hit the fifth three-pointer on the sidelines, there was a little resuscitation from two players of another player. Can you comment on some of the activity there, some of the creative celebrations that we saw yesterday?
I feel like that just shows the personality of our team. We love each other so much and want to see everyone be successful. And I think what they were doing yesterday was just kind of just showing their personality and celebrating Lexi.
Do you guys practice that sort of thing?
No.
You're good.
Good. This one's for Laney and then also for Renaya. So obviously, Laney, coming in, this being your first year, just who are, some of the people, I guess, on this team specifically that you've kind of leaned on, for advice, things like that. And obviously, Renaya, you playing kind of a, similar position as her. What type of advice do you give Laney being a first-year player who obviously is all the way at the tournament now and has some experience, but just kind of, can you just talk about, some of the, I guess, gems and things that you try to give to her?
Laney, go ahead.
Yeah, my buddy is Alyssa, so for the entire experience of the tournament, I've leaned on her a lot, but I would say playing the guard position, like Kayla has really stepped up for me almost as like a second coach while I'm on the court if I have any questions, or she always has something to say in like timeouts or huddles, so she does a great job of keeping me calm. And then for me personally, as my starting point guard, I would even say Renaya, and I know she's only 1 year older than me, but she brings such a calming presence, so I know that if anything... yeah. But no, if I ever need anything, I just look over at her, and she's really good at grounding the team and getting everybody in the right spots. So.
Lainey, I'm really proud of you. I am. You know, I know missing your senior year in high school is like devastating. So, I think for Lainey, just trusting the work that she's put in. She's here for a reason, and she's here at this particular time for a reason. So I think just trusting the work that she's put in. She's still working hard to this day, and I think she's going to go far regardless of what she goes.
Tanner Mounts, U92 radar. There we go. This is a question for any of you. Everyone focuses on West Virginia's defense, but J.J. Cornelius and Jordan Harris are combined for 50 points. What do you guys see them doing offensively that could present some challenges as well?
Indy, you want to start with this one?
Yeah, both of those guards are very dynamic. They get to the paint, they hunt paint touches, and they're very crafty as well with the ball. So making sure we're crowding them, putting them in a crowd, I think is the best thing for us to do in this game. Putting them in a crowd, making sure that our players are not on islands.
Lainey, anything to add?
You know, taking away their primary tendencies, I think, is big. You know, Indy talked about making them play in crowds, but also, like, the shots they do get, like, make them contested and make them hard, and maybe not their first option, making them go to their second or third options. We talked about, you know, trying to get the balls out of their hands, stuff like that, but, you know, Indy pretty much covered the most of it.
Cody Nesper, West Virginia Sports Now. For any of you guys, what do you expect the crowd to be like tomorrow? Obviously, it was good yesterday. And how much does being here, you know, help you in games like this?
Yeah, I think because the game is at 7 p.m. now, it's actually going to be a really, really good crowd tomorrow. And also, it means a lot. You know, obviously, we want to do this for the seniors. I think Alyssa, Lexi, Kayla, Maria, Grace, we want to do this for them. So the fact that they can play here their last game at our home gym is like amazing. So I'm just really happy for them.
Kate Shoemaker with the Daily Tar Heel. Lainey, you just mentioned moments ago about like Alyssa being your buddy. Is there a buddy system for this team? What does that look like, and how has Alyssa specifically kind of guided you through this March process?
Yeah, so everybody in the team in the beginning of the season was paired up with somebody, and I was fortunate enough to get Alyssa, and then we brought in Tisa, so we're like a trio buddy now that she joined the program. But Alyssa has been very grounding for me as somebody who's going on her 5th season here, and like this is my first, and I am a young player. Like, she knows the ins and outs of everything. She's been, you know, a great calming and also like motivating force. Like kind of what Renaya just said, like you want to do it for her, you want to do it for Lexi and all the seniors that have poured everything they have into this program. So as a younger player, like I have no option but to give my best every single possession on the floor because that's what they deserve and that's what, you know, like I want to give them. So
Down in front.
Justin Jackson with the Dominion Post. I'm wondering if you guys can kind of explain to me the season that Maria has had. There's obviously been games where she's dominated and then games where, you know, maybe foul trouble or other issues and injuries, obviously. And now she's come back and it looks like she might be able to play a very pivotal role for you guys tomorrow. So I'm just kind of wondering if you guys can sum up what she's meant to you guys throughout the year and the role she could play tomorrow.
India, you want this one?
Oh, yeah. It's hard because Maria's like my big sister, and I just seen her grow so much from last year. She plays an important role on our team. She rebounds, she makes crucial plays. And, you know, those days where she gets in foul trouble, that's just she's putting it in, she trusts in us that we're going to make up when she's not on the court. But I don't know, I feel like she deserves so much more credit, and yeah, I don't know. I feel like she's done a great job this year in setting herself up for the future.
And the role she plays tomorrow against West Virginia?
Yeah, a big role. I don't think anybody can really guard her in the country, so just making sure we're feeding her the ball in the best position, and she's just going to do what she does.
Anything else for our student athletes? Alrighty, thank you, ladies. We'll go ahead and move along with head coach Courtney Banghart. Questions?
Doug Bonjour, Associated Press. Again, on the topic of defense, how do you kind of go about preparing that for something that's, that you don't always see all the time, court press?
Yeah, there's a rhythm that you have to play with each game, and it was very different than the rhythm we had to play against yesterday. So there's an element of you can prepare through film and through understanding angles, and then they've got to kind of play through it a little bit, right? We played against pressing. Obviously Duke did more man-to-man press, whereas like a Syracuse and did more of a zone press. So and then we play against our guys. I mean, we had all last week to prepare for pressure, so it's sort of like a zone defense or a man-to-man defense. Everyone's defense is a little different. Their schemes are a little different. So you can't really practice it to perfection. You can prepare for it. And so that's what we've done through film, and we did last week, and knowing that we might play a team like this. And then we've got practice time today to spend on it. But the great thing about March is that you don't need to reinvent yourself. I know everyone talks about March being your new season. As I told them yesterday, I don't want a new season. I want this season, right? And so this is a continuation of the season of work they've already put in. And so, partly how we win this game is how we play on both sides of the ball together, regardless of what the other team is doing, and play to our strengths. So we're just going to continue that, kind of the way who we are, and put ourselves in the best position to be successful.
On that note, you must feel fortunate to have the experienced guard play you have.
Yeah.
It has to help, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Especially having Renaya back, and Grace has played for 5. This is her 5th year. Obviously, Lexi's 5th year. Alyssa's a ball handling perimeter player as well. So we've got a lot of experience. Indy is a junior at the guard spot. Yeah, it helps us a lot.
Kate Shoemaker with the Daily Tar Heel. Courtney, obviously ball protection is a key for this game. What are some practical things you can do to limit turnovers when they're so scrappy on defense?
I think part of it is that, again, I'm not the one playing against it. So whereas there's times where I might beat it with pace, other times I might beat it with the dribble, other times I might beat it by a kind of a pass back to quick reversal to up the floor. I've got to show them the various, how to utilize the court, quite honestly, through angles and through our bodies well. And then they have to read that possession accordingly. Because as you take one dribble up the court, the angle is not as good in one way, and the angle's better in another way. If you take a dribble towards the middle of the court, you're shrinking one angle one way, but you're increasing an angle another way, right? So it's not as much that they do this, we do this. It's understanding how to utilize the angles on the court to use their pressure against them and get great shots for us.
Down here to the left.
Daniel Woods, WV Metro News. Coach, WVU in Mark's first 2 seasons, it's unprecedented. This is the first time they've won 50 games across 2 seasons. So from a coach's perspective, watching from afar, what can you, add in terms of perspective to what he's been able to accomplish so quickly? Yeah,
we played them when they were at SFA. One of my years, I think it was when I was here, but we played Stephen F. Austin, and when he was their head coach there, and they were really good. I think it was the year we went to the Sweet 16. I think we played them first. And so they didn't press as much then. They played more of a 5-out, so it shows he can coach in a lot of different ways. The thing, what I really have to mention is how hard it is to win one game, much less 50, right? And so, as I always say, everybody gives scholarships, everybody recruits, everybody puts their time in. So you don't just get to win because you want to. You have to go find a way, and he has found a way 50 times in 2 years to beat the team on the other side of the ball. It's not easy, and you have to win a lot of different ways, right? How we won, was it yesterday, Oregon State, is going to be different than how we have to win against WVU, right? And he's had to do that 50 times. And so, especially at a new place, you've got to kind of figure out that place pretty quickly. What's attractive to the student athletes at that place? What are the pressures at that place? And so he's navigated that really well, which is what's so great about March. There's such small advantages because everybody's so good. Coaches, players, that's what makes it so special.
Quinn Roby, U92 Radio. How do you, on a short turnaround, prepare for the 2 guards in Jordan Harris and J.J. Quinterly, the way that they can play defense and also score at a high rate?
You just thank your ACC counterparts, right? Try guarding Tanaya Latson and Omira Gordon, Try that out for size, right? And then try to guard Olivia Miles and Hannah Hidalgo. Try that, right? And then go try to guard Isaiah James and Sanaya Rivers and Zoe Brooks, right? I mean, these are, I just named 10 first-round draft picks, right? So that isn't that different, honestly. You have really good guard play in March. You have really good guard play on ranked teams. And so they're hard to guard. So you're going to have to be really good defensively, both on the 1v1, 2v2, all the way down to 5v5. So, fortunately, I give a lot of credit to our ACC counterparts, right? I've had to prepare for elite guard play, I feel like, all year. So it's another opportunity to do so.
Coach Justin Jackson with the Dominion Post. Just obviously, games aren't always played on paper, but just looking at some of the roster, I mean, it seems like you guys have a pretty good size advantage maybe going into this game. So I'm just kind of, what kind of role could that play? And certainly with Maria inside in the lane, what could her role be for tomorrow? Yeah, we call Maria the problem because she's a real problem 1v1. So playing out of double teams means you're leaving other guys open, right? Also, if you're going to be really aggressive in passing lanes, you're not in gaps. So those passing lanes into the post should be easier. They weren't as easy against Oregon State because they played more of a sagging defense, right? So there was a crowd in there. They want to crowd the perimeter and make it really difficult. That means there's going to be more space in the interior. And so that's kind of a little bit of the gamesmanship, right, is where are our advantages based on how they want to play, just like they're going to find their advantages on how we like to play. But, Maria is a problem, and she needs to continue to do so in order for us to continue to be successful.
Hey, Courtney, Ariel Bynum, Tar Heel Tribune. The game at Chapel Hill with Duke was obviously a big rock fight. How is going through a game and having that experience maybe help against a team that's probably as good defensively? And how is their defense different than what you saw against Duke or perhaps other teams?
Yeah, I mean, Louisville, I was thinking on the road, that was a rock fight. We played them a couple weeks ago, it feels like. And they've got, Jada Curry and who's and Taj Roberts, who, and then they turn around and pick you up right off the ball. So I think it's probably a little bit more similar to Louisville, maybe, with some concepts of Syracuse. On a miss when they get into their full court man, that's a little bit more like Duke. So they're all a little different. Duke is more athletic in the post spot, so they can switch out on everything. That's not what West Virginia is going to do, right? Louisville is more like West Virginia because Louisville is a little bit, they're really guard-oriented. They're smaller, right? So, I think it's more that our kids have had to navigate a variety of pressures. They've had to guard a variety of skilled players. They've had to deal with a lot of different attacks. Just like I'm not as familiar with the Big 12, but I'm sure that's what West Virginia gets to lean on too. They get to lean on their body of work and their body of experiences. And so, I didn't watch them and think they're that similar to Duke, quite honestly, because it's Duke's it's Duke's post athleticism that allows them to switch out and keep bodies in front of the ball. This is more guard trappy, guard back tap, guard, so more like a Louisville, actually.
Ashley, you were probably too busy to see it, but when Lexi hit the fifth three-pointer, Blanca hit the floor with her back to the court, and Sydney and one other player resuscitated her. What does that say about your team that you have these creative sorts of celebrations and everybody's celebrating each other? Big time. Yeah, that's how they are in practice too. I mean, I don't know if they do exactly that, but there's a lot of moments of passion, right? And I hope that's something that they see the importance of. I think I always say that you got to out team and out tough to win in life, right? You got to be a good teammate and you got to be tough. And those type of moments are showing you that we're out teaming, right? We're celebrating team success, even if you're not directly a part of it. And so, I think we promote that in practice. We shouldn't be doing things that are exciting and doing things that are disappointing on an island, right? That's like not the way life is to be lived. So yeah, we talk about out teaming with passion and out playing with toughness a lot. Is that sort of celebration organic? Oh yeah, I haven't seen it. I heard about it when you guys asked the players.
they're certainly not doing that where they're not spending practice time doing it. I don't know what they're doing in the privacy of their own time, but anything that involves passion, I'm a fan of.
Kate Shoemaker with the Daily Tar Heel asked Lainey a minute ago about the buddy system and how important that has been for her, especially with how young she is. Is that something that you implemented when you first got here? Can you kind of explain that and how you go about pairing people with their buddies?
Yeah, pretty thoughtfully. You have sometimes, I think it's a good life skill to have to care about somebody else, right? And I think sometimes, especially in team sport, we make a lot of assumptions. We make a lot of assumptions that everyone understands the value of team. Yet you come into the world alone and you leave the world alone, right? So, except for my twins, ironically. So I think how you learn how to be a teammate is actually a skill, right? And it starts with how do you take care of one person, right? And then once you learn how to ask about them. So in other words, if you don't do well in a test, your buddy should know that. I should be able to ask your buddy what's going on in your life, and they should know, right? So we teach them how to take care of and care about and be responsible for one person, right? And then maybe you have double dates with a couple other buddy groups to then do it in group. But there's just value in that. And so how we put them together is pretty thoughtfully, I knew how Lainey's wired is pretty similar to Alyssa, which is both good and sometimes has challenges, right? They hold themselves to a relentless standard that can suck the joy out of you if you're not careful, right? And so those two have some things to navigate. So it's good that they're together, right? Other people might have different similarities or differences where they can counteract each other. So it's not random, like most of what I do. It's pretty thoughtful. And I know that's one thing they look forward to every year. Who's my buddy, right? But yeah, I brought that with me, and it's been a big part of our team.
Tar Heel Tribune. Obviously, a lot of elements will go into making a big run, but how important is making the perimeter shot? You basically only made a lot of them in the third quarter when you pulled away. Do you think you have to be really good from the perimeter to make a run? I think against a team like Oregon State, where they have 3 people with 2 feet in the paint at every position, every single possession, your advantage, you're at 4-on-2 on the perimeter, right? So against them, that's the shot they're asking you to make, right? I think against West Virginia, it might not matter how well you shoot, right? It's a high risk, high reward. So if you handle their risk, you get a high reward, right? And so whether that's post feeds, whether that's layups, beating pressure, whether that's free throws, any time the ball goes in the basket, it's a positive outcome. So if that means you shoot well, there's going to be higher percentages of positive outcomes. But I think different teams provide different openings more freely. And against Oregon State, they had 2 people where literally they never left the paint on defense. No matter if you went to the bathroom, they'd stay in the paint, right? And so, we had to stretch them out. I think West Virginia will be a little bit different. But we'd also like to shoot well. Anytime you shoot well, you win, right? So if we shoot well with how we defend, we should win a lot of games.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
You got
Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Welcome back, everyone. As a reminder, silence your cell phones. Remember to provide your name and media affiliation each time you ask a question. For those of you on Zoom, we'll get to you when we get a chance. And please, recording press conferences on cell phones or cameras is prohibited. Today for West Virginia, we have Jordan Harrison, J.J. Quinterly, and Kaya Watson. We'll take questions. Just raise your hand and we'll get rolling.
To radio.
Go ahead.
From that.
Start with you, Jordan.
Watching the game yesterday, they're a team that likes to play pretty fast, especially in transition. They got some good paint dominance down there, and they play together, move the ball really well, and they shoot the three-point shot pretty good. So that's what I get off of them first glimpse.
Thoughts on UNC, JJ?
Same thing as Jordan said. I think they got a couple of girls who can score the ball for sure. They big, it's pretty decent. So we definitely got to lock into everybody for sure.
Doug, go ahead.
Yeah, same thing that they said. Just pushing in transition, and then their post, really trying to get the ball inside, and then guarding them on the three-point line.
Doug Bonjour, Associated Press. I guess JJ, obviously, you all mentioned North Carolina's size. How do you kind of go about attacking that when you have such a quick turnaround and only, so little time to prepare?
I think for us, we just need to stay locked in, like I said, and we got to go out there and play our game. I mean, they do got some bigs, but we played against bigs in the Big 12 all the time, so we still going to do what we can do, regardless of their bigs.
And on defense for you guys, I think it was you who mentioned yesterday that playing defense is fun. Do you kind of thrive off the maybe frustrations that your opponents have? Does that really get you going when you sense that what you're doing is, frustrating them?
Yeah, I would say yesterday or last game, I think number 12 was kind of breathing hard when we was about to press, and I looked at Jordan. I was like, yeah, we got him. Let's go.
Jordan, you have anything to add on defense?
No, basically same thing she said.
Luke Blaine, Daily Athenaeum. So for any of you, UNC was only up by 2 at halftime yesterday, and then they really just kind of came alive in the third quarter. What's the mindset going into this game from a defensive standpoint, knowing that they can just catch fire and score 30 points in a quarter out of nowhere?
Kaya, you want to start with this one?
I would just say that our defense each quarter, especially after that half, has to be good. We have to kind of be playing together, make sure our press is effective and kind of causing chaos out there.
Yeah, same. To piggyback off of her, we definitely got to rev up the pressure for sure. Like I said, they got a lot of girls who can do a lot of things, shoot, drive. So we definitely just got to stay locked in and pressure them, try to make them make mistakes.
Cody Nesper, West Virginia Sports Now. All of you, for all of you, you expect a good crowd tomorrow. After last season, though, can anything live up to what Iowa City was like? And how did you kind of learn to handle environments like that?
Jordan, you want to go with this one?
Yeah. I think it's going to be kind of hard to beat what we saw last year. And I'm glad that we were in that situation. So now when this situation presents itself, we're prepared and we know what to expect. But, honestly, we're just going to control what we can control on the court. If they're not scoring, then the crowd can't really get into it. So that's just kind of what we're going to stick to.
Anything to add? All right.
Daniel Woods, WV Metro News. I'll give this up to all three of you because you've all been here for all of it. Yesterday, with 25 wins, it's the first time WVU's won 25 games in back-to-back seasons in school history, and it's come in Coach Kellogg's first 2 seasons. So what about the culture of this program on and off the court since he's come in has stood out that's allowed you guys to have that kind of success that quickly?
JJ, go ahead.
I think us off the court, us hanging out, doing little activities together, hanging out at each other's houses or just doing random stuff. Then when we had practice, I think we all just gel really well and we all like each other. There's not a lot of animosity on the team, so I think that definitely is an advantage for us.
Kai, anything to add?
Kind of like JJ said, outside the court, we all get along really well. This is probably the only people I hang out with. But, on the court, I think we do play really well together, and we kind of have, that same goal, all the same goals. So I think that really helps us play good together.
Justin Jackson with the Dominion Post for JJ. JJ, I mean, obviously your name is found throughout the record book and your accomplishments at the school. What would it mean for you to add a Sweet 16 onto everything you've accomplished already?
Like I said, I think advancing was a big goal of mine coming into this season and even last season. So last season we came up short, so definitely this season I'm looking forward to advancing for sure. I'm going to go into that game like it's my last, and I'm going to play it like it's my last. So, yeah.
Anything else for the student athletes?
Cody Nesper, West Virginia Sports Now. JJ, was the section behind the bench, was that your fam club? And what did, there's a good WVU presence last night, so just what did that mean?
I think for us, we definitely feed off that energy. Like at home, that energy is amazing. So having them fans right behind our bench, a lot of people from my family had came down because, of course, Virginia is not that far. So it was just amazing, honestly. We felt the energy and we revved it up.
Anything else? Thank you, ladies. Good luck. All right, we'll continue with West Virginia head coach Mark Kellogg. Go ahead and raise your hands, and we'll get started.
Tanner Mounts, U92 Radio coach. So obviously you were watching the game yesterday. What stood out to UNC, maybe that you thought could present a couple challenges for tomorrow?
Yeah, well, obviously two different halves, I think, and First half was a little bit slower. They came out and kind of changed defenses and looked like they made some nice halftime adjustments and, really turned up the pressure. This is an elite defensive team in North Carolina. They're extremely hard to score against. And then they pose all sorts of, problems on the offensive end just because of, they can spread it out. They're very balanced. Lots of different kids that come off the bench that can score. And they do it in multiple ways. So this is what happens when you get into these round of 32 type games, Sweet 16 type games. You're getting quality teams that are very well coached. And, and they just spread you around. And like I said, do it in a lot of different ways. But really, really good on the offensive end and then elite defensively.
Luke Blaine, Daily Athenaeum. So you've spoke a lot this year about how the elite teams will play a full 40 minutes of good basketball. And after seeing UNC only up by 2 at halftime yesterday and then go on a 30-9 third quarter, how important is that and how much more emphasized is that message about playing a full game?
Yeah, I don't know that it necessarily – we'll watch more than one game and, you take data from more than one. Certainly their adjustments were fantastic and they dominated that third quarter. But yeah, it's this time of year, you do need to play 40 minutes without question, and you need to sustain it. And yeah, these games seem like they take forever. You hang on to every possession. The intensity is ratcheted up several notches than what, throughout the regular season. So they just have a different feel, and you really truly hang on to each possession one at a time and valuing the basketball and rebounding and cleaning up some things that, we're not really a time of possession game like football, but in a sense, like you need ball in hand and you want to control the game as much as you can. And I thought yesterday North Carolina took control of that game in the third and the fourth.
Mark, Doug Bonjour, Associated Press. How do you go about just preparing for North Carolina's size advantage? Do you feel like, how do you go about preparing for that?
You think they have a size advantage? Just kidding. That's every game. Like we go into every game and we don't have a size advantage. So that's not new for us. We do have to game plan for that. So I'm not trying to downplay it because Gak Dang's having a really, really good year. And I've actually coached against her once before when she was at BC. But they have size. They have athleticism. Utsby, I think, is fantastic. She's the heart and soul of that team from my vantage point. I don't know if they say the same thing or not. But yeah, you just have to game plan for it. I'm not going to give you the game plan, but it's a part of what we do. But it's every night. Every night in the Big 12, we're bigger, or smaller. People are bigger than us, but I think Columbia said that about us too, that they had a size advantage over the Power 4 school, and those types of things too. But we have other things that we can do to combat that.
On that note, does it help that you are experienced with that, and that's something that you've had to deal with time in, time out?
Well, it makes the preparation a little bit better because you're just drawing off of a game plan that we've already had. When you're playing the Ayoka Lees and Audie Crookses and Von Lay at Baylor, and you can just go through the whole Big 12. It's there's elite talent at the 5 position or even at the 4. Where we might be a little undersized, and then our guards are always smaller. Like I think we have the smallest backcourt in all of Power 4, so that's nothing new for us either. So really, all it does, I guess, maybe to answer your original question, is it's a short turnaround, it's a short prep time, and so you have to draw off of game plans that we've already utilized at some point throughout the season, and that just makes it a little bit easier for our kids.
10 around 292 radio. Coach, you mentioned UNC has an elite defense. What is it that you've seen that specifically makes them that elite defense?
Yeah, well, it's a mindset first and foremost, but their positioning is great. Their rotations are great. They're tough. They're physical. They do a good job rebounding the basketball. And some of it is even just like in transition. They don't turn it over very much offensively. And a lot of people don't realize your defense starts with, I think, shots you take. What you do on the offensive end dictates what you do on the defensive end, and they just do a good job of getting into their stuff on the offensive end, taking the right shots. So their transition defense is really good, and then they can set and get set defensively, and that's when they're pretty elite.
Quinn Roby, U92. Do you look at when they went and played Duke with them also pressing, do you kind of look at that tape to kind of see what Duke did to mess with them? They had 20 turnovers against Duke. Do you go back and look at that tape and just kind of base things off of that?
Yeah, I think you try to find any teams that have similarities to the way you play, whether it be Duke or anybody else within their league. And You just try to find, do they have any holes? Do they have weaknesses? How can we capitalize on that? What can we take advantage of? And you try to, I think you game plan, and you always have like game plan A, and then you have, okay, if this doesn't go right, what are we going to do? And so you have like A, B, and C. Hopefully you don't get to C very often because you might be in a little bit of trouble. But if you can stay within A and B, then maybe you have, a fighting chance. But yes, to answer your question, yes, we go back and find maybe as close to like-minded teams as us.
Bryce Cohen, Daily Athenaeum. How does the experience last year playing at Iowa in that crowd translate into what the environment's going to look like tomorrow and how you prepare for that?
I think we can draw off of it. I think we've talked about that even a little bit in your prep and how you go about it here for the next day and a half and what your focus needs to be on, which it was a year ago, and our kids did a great job getting ready for that one. I've said for most of the year, like if you played in that game at Iowa with those 15,000 people, and several people that were there that have been in some other big-time venues have said that was the loudest environment that they had ever been in. So we can draw off of that. Now, it got pretty loud in there last night, too, when Donarski started going on her 13-0 or 14-0 run or whatever that was. That place got rocking, too. So they're all loud. I would say you're used to it, but it's how you respond to it. And, do you let the environment and the things that you can't control affect your mindset, or can we stay in the moment and kind of tune it out a little bit and stay together, which is what this takes. That you work hard to get these home games. It's what was one of our goals was so if we got to this point of the season, we could be at home. Obviously, we fell a little short of that. North Carolina did what they needed to do, so we have to play really well and overcome playing on somebody's home floor. So advantage them, but we will be prepared and we will draw off that experience.
Daniel Woods, WV Metro News. When Coach Bangert was up here, she brought up playing against your SFA team in the 2022 tournament. Do you draw anything from that experience? I know it's very different at this point. It was 3 years ago, but you draw anything about what she may try to throw at you tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, maybe a little bit. Yeah, completely different rosters, different teams. Other than I think Gutsby was on that team. I don't think anybody else on their current roster was, and. Zaya Nugent's on our team now, but, who played really well in that game and had 26, but she just has battled some injuries and not quite, able to really help us as much as she did back then. So I will draw off maybe a little bit of it, but again, I don't know if 3 years ago is quite relevant enough today. That's a one time we coached against each other was in the first round in 2022.
Hey, Mark, Cody Nesper, West Virginia Sports Now. Coach Bangert said there's like bits and pieces of ACC opponents that she sees in you guys, so I'm just wondering on the flip, is there a Big 12 opponent that UNC reminds you of, or is it like bits and pieces of maybe teams in the league?
Yeah, no, good question. We've talked about that a little bit, which we really try to do this time of year, and I think I kind of said that even about Columbia and personnel as when you don't know their personnel quite as well, we try to make references to teams, within our league. And so there's parts of it that I would see some Big 12 teams, nobody that's like completely identical, obviously. But I think we could take parts of certain players off certain teams is probably what we've done a little bit more. And then some stylistic stuff that, offensively this is, who they play like this team, and defensively they play like this team. And then we try to like package it for our kids to understand. Again, those were game plans, and we're trying to get our kids to go back to maybe game plans that we've used throughout the year to make it just a little bit simpler on the quick turnaround.
Hi, Mark. Doug Bonjour, Associated Press. Unrelated to tomorrow, there's been talk on the men's side, of course, of expansion. I was curious from your standpoint, if someone who's kind of, bounced around, bigger, smaller schools, do you think the women's game is ready for that, or, is that something that maybe is further down the line?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't even know how we got to 64 to 68. Now you hear, maybe we should go to 76 or different numbers, 74. I don't know how we even come up with some of those metrics. I think we're getting into this world where everybody gets to participate type stuff. I don't know that I always believe in that. I have been at the mid-major level where it can get a little frustrating when you have a great year and on the wrong night in your conference tournament, you don't get an opportunity to make it. And we felt that pressure. And so that gets frustrating if you're one of those coaches when you think you have a team that's certainly qualified for this stage and could probably do something pretty special. But at the same time, there's opportunities, at the Power Four for those teams that are really good that, maybe go 500 that should be in the tournament. So I don't know. If you expand it, does it get watered down? We had some scores that weren't great, weren't overly competitive. So I think that creeps into people's minds. So I think if we do, it's how do we set it up to make it competitive as much as possible. Are we playing, obviously, there's extra rounds to this, so who's playing earlier in it? Can we get those games to be competitive, almost like conference tournaments where as it goes, it should get more competitive, but can the first round games stay a little more competitive than some of the ones we get right now? So would be the challenge. So I don't know. I don't have a great answer for you because that's something I don't really get paid to make those decisions or think about a ton. I just kind of roll with it. But I have been at both levels, and I think there's advantages both ways. All right, fair enough.
Anything else for Coach?
Daniel, what's WV Metro News? With the win against Columbia, that's 25 in back-to-back seasons for the first time in program history, third time that WVU's won 50 across 2 seasons. So I asked the players, as far as a culture perspective, when you came into the program, is there something that stands out that you wanted to establish that you feel like you have that has allowed you to have that kind of success almost immediately?
Well, certainly. I said, I think even at the press conference, I was a sustained success guy. I think that's one of the hardest things to do in college athletics, and maybe more so this day and age with everything going on. And we were fortunate. I was fortunate to walk into some really good players that chose to stay. That was important. We pieced together some really good ones a year ago and added some transfers, and then we're able to do that again to sustain it. I never set out, I guess, necessarily or said we needed to win 25 or I was trying to win 50 in the first 2 years. It was just, man, how can we leave a mark? How can I put in a style and a system and develop this culture with great character kids and staff that allow us to do that? And that's really all it is for me. I mean, I'm just loving this right now because I get to go to work still every day. I'm watching this team achieve, essentially at the highest level. We've done some remarkable things in 2 years. I think we've risen the bar for our program. You can tell with the attendance increase and just the media coverage and all of you guys that are here today. It's a few more than even a year ago. So that's we must be doing something right. But it goes back to the players and the staff and administration that just gives us, the resources to have success. And I just try to implement, a few things here and there and be a consistent guy for everybody and then let it kind of shine. But, I still think we can get more eyes on us. I still don't think we, maybe on the national scene, have gotten the level of respect that we probably deserve. I don't know that J.J. Quinterly has. I still think she's a phenomenal talent that maybe hasn't been talked about enough, on the national level. And there's narratives that, we get focused on certain teams. And I think there's even more stories to be told. So I hope ours continues to be written. I hope we can do something really special tomorrow and, continue to get more eyes on the West Virginia women's basketball program.
And then you talked about it a little bit this weekend, but a win tomorrow would be the first time WVU's gone to a Sweet 16 in a 68-team field. So what would that mean to make that mark for the program?
Yeah, well, obviously it'd be huge. We would, our players have talked about leaving a legacy. As a coach, you want to leave a legacy. You want to be a part of the best teams in program history. And, if we get there, I don't want to stop there either, so I don't want it to be like that's the all or nothing for us. But there are steps to it, and we need to pass that step. We need to pass that test, and we know it's going to be awfully difficult to win in here against the level of competition that we have. So I don't know if I've allowed myself to get there yet mentally, but if we do, when we do, ask me, and I'll give you maybe a little bit better answer on what it feels like to get there. But we'll dream about it, and we've talked about it, but I've never really allowed myself to go there yet. Too much work to be done.
All righty. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate it, and good luck. As a reminder, Hammond Communications